A study published just 3 weeks ago in one of the most respected cardiovascular journals in the world is sending shockwaves through the medical community. And I have to be honest with you, when I first read it, I had to put the paper down and just sit with it for a moment. Because for decades, doctors, nutritionists, and even the guidelines we follow have been telling you that a certain morning drink is one of the healthiest things you can put in your body. Millions of seniors pour themselves a tall glass of it every single morning, believing they are doing something wonderful for their hearts, their bones, their immune systems. 90% of adults over 60 drink it regularly. It sits right there on the breakfast table next to the toast and the eggs, and nobody thinks twice about it. But this new research, involving over 12,000 participants followed for nearly 8 years, found something that nobody expected. That so-called healthy juice, the one you probably had this morning, is quietly, silently, and steadily contributing to the buildup of plaque inside your arteries. Not in the way you might think. Not because of one single ingredient, but because of a biological chain reaction that most doctors were never taught to look for. I am Dr. Evelyn Moore. I have spent over 25 years in clinical practice, and I have seen firsthand what happens when well-meaning people follow outdated advice for too long. What I am about to share with you today could genuinely change how you think about your morning routine, and more importantly, it could protect your heart in ways that no one has explained to you before. But before I reveal exactly which juice this is and what the study found, you need to understand why this happens in the first place. Because if you do not understand the mechanism, you will not believe me. And honestly, I would not blame you. So to explain this properly, I need to tell you about a patient of mine. Her name was Gloria. Gloria was 71 years old when she first walked into my office. She was the kind of woman who lit up a room. Retired school teacher, loved gardening, had 3 grandchildren she adored. And she was, by every conventional measure, doing everything right with her health. She exercised 3 times a week, just gentle walks and some stretching, nothing extreme. She watched her sodium. She had cut out red meat years ago, and every single morning, without fail, she drank a large glass of fresh juice because her previous doctor had told her it was one of the best things she could do for her vitamin levels and her immune system. When Gloria came to see me, it was for something unrelated. She had been having some mild knee pain, and her daughter had suggested she get a full checkup while she was at it. So we did the standard blood work. And when the results came back, I remember sitting across from her in my office, looking at her numbers, and feeling genuinely confused. "Gloria," I said, "your cholesterol panel is interesting. Your LDL is not terribly high, but your triglycerides are significantly elevated, and your fasting glucose is creeping into a range I am not comfortable with." She looked at me with those bright eyes and said, "But doctor, I eat so well. I do not understand. I have not had a sugary dessert in years. I do not drink soda. I do not eat candy. What am I doing wrong?" And that question, that exact question, is the one that haunts me. Because Gloria was doing so many things right. But there was one thing she was doing every day, something she believed was protecting her, that was slowly and quietly undermining her cardiovascular system. I asked her to walk me through her typical day of eating. Breakfast was oatmeal, sometimes with a banana and a large glass of orange juice. Sometimes she would have a second glass with lunch. On hot days, she might have apple juice or a blended fruit juice from the store in the afternoon. When I added it all up, Gloria was consuming nearly 40 grams of fructose just from juice alone, every single day. And she had been doing this for over 15 years. Now, I did not alarm her that day. I told her we needed to adjust a few things and that I wanted to see her back in 3 months. But here is what happened next, and this is the part that still bothers me. Gloria did not come back in 3 months. Life got busy, as it does. She felt fine, her knee got better, and she figured, well, my diet is healthy, so what is there to worry about? 14 months later, Gloria's daughter called my office in a panic. Gloria had experienced a transient ischemic attack, a mini stroke. She was in the hospital. When they ran the imaging, they found significant plaque buildup in her carotid arteries, the kind of buildup that does not happen overnight, the kind that accumulates quietly over years while you believe you are doing everything right. I visited her in the hospital, and the first thing she said to me was, "Dr. Moore, I just do not understand. I was so careful." And the hardest part of my job that day was telling her that one of the things she thought was protecting her may have actually been contributing to the problem. Now, I want to pause here for a moment because I know some of you watching this right now are thinking about the glass of juice sitting on your kitchen counter. And I want you to know that this is not about making you feel guilty. This is about giving you information that the system has been slow to update. So let me ask you something. If you drink juice regularly, especially orange juice, apple juice, or any kind of fruit juice, I want you to type, "I drink it" in the comments below. Do not be embarrassed. Millions of people do. I just want to see how many of you this affects, because I think the number is going to be staggering. All right, now let me explain the science behind what is actually happening in your body when you drink juice, because this is where it gets truly eye-opening. And I promise, I am going to keep this simple. When you eat a whole orange, something beautiful happens. The fiber in that orange acts like a traffic controller. It slows down the absorption of the natural sugars. Your liver receives the fructose gradually, in manageable amounts, and it processes it efficiently. Think of it like cars merging onto a highway one at a time. Everything flows smoothly, no accidents, no congestion. But when you drink orange juice, you have removed all of that fiber. You have taken the sugar from 3, 4, sometimes 5 or 6 oranges and delivered it to your liver all at once. Now imagine all of those cars trying to merge onto the highway at the same time. What happens? A pileup, a traffic jam, chaos. When your liver gets flooded with fructose like that, it cannot process it all through normal energy pathways. So it does something else. It starts converting that excess fructose directly into fat, specifically into triglycerides. And this is not a slow, gentle process. Research has shown that fructose consumption from liquid sources can increase triglyceride production by as much as 30% within just hours of consumption. That is not a typo. Hours. Now, here is where it gets even more concerning, and this is the part that most people have never heard. Those triglycerides do not just float around harmlessly, they contribute to the formation of small, dense LDL particles. You have probably heard of LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol. But what most people do not know is that not all LDL is created equal. Large, fluffy LDL particles are relatively benign. They bounce off your artery walls like beach balls. But small, dense LDL particles, the kind that fructose overload helps create, are like tiny darts. They penetrate the artery wall, they get trapped underneath the lining, and they trigger inflammation. And inflammation, my friends, is the real villain in this story. When those small LDL particles lodge themselves in your artery walls, your immune system sends inflammatory cells to deal with them. Those cells gobble up the LDL, but in the process, they become bloated and die. They form what we call foam cells, and over time, layer after layer, those foam cells build up into plaque, the very plaque that was clogging Gloria's carotid arteries. But wait, there is a third mechanism that makes this even worse, and it is one that is particularly relevant for those of you over 60. Excess fructose consumption has been shown to increase levels of uric acid in the blood. Now, you might associate uric acid with gout, and you would be right. But elevated uric acid also damages the endothelium, which is the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels. Think of the endothelium as a non-stick coating inside your arteries. When uric acid damages that coating, it becomes rough, sticky. And when it becomes sticky, guess what adheres to it more easily? That is right. Those small, dense LDL particles and inflammatory cells. It is like scratching up a non-stick pan and then wondering why everything starts sticking to it. So you have this triple threat happening every time you drink a large glass of juice. Triglyceride overproduction, small dense LDL formation, and endothelial damage from uric acid, all three working together silently over years and years, building plaque in your arteries while you believe you are making a healthy choice. And now, here is the revelation I promised you at the beginning, the one that is making cardiologists rethink their recommendations. The study I mentioned, which was published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology, followed 12,400 adults over the age of 55 for an average of 7.8 years. The researchers specifically tracked juice consumption and correlated it with cardiovascular events including heart attacks, strokes, and the need for procedures like stenting or bypass surgery. What they found was striking. Participants who consumed 2 or more servings of fruit juice per day, and a serving is just 8 ounces, had a 34% higher risk of a major cardiovascular event compared to those who consumed less than 1 serving per week. 34%. And here is what made this study particularly powerful. They controlled for other factors. They adjusted for smoking, for exercise, for overall diet quality, for body mass index, for existing conditions. Even after all of those adjustments, the juice association remained statistically significant. But the researchers went further. In a subset of participants, they performed carotid artery ultrasounds at baseline and again at the end of the study period. Those who were regular juice drinkers showed measurably greater intima media thickness, which is a direct indicator of arterial plaque buildup, compared to non-juice drinkers. The arteries were literally getting thicker, more clogged, more dangerous. Now, let me be clear about something important. This is not just about orange juice. The study included all types of fruit juice, including apple, grape, cranberry, and mixed blends. The common factor was not the type of fruit. It was the delivery method. Liquid, fiber-free, concentrated fructose hitting the liver all at once. And I have to say, this is something I have been suspecting for years in my own practice, long before this study was published, because I have seen it over and over again. Let me tell you about a few more patients to illustrate what I mean. There was Raymond, 68, a retired mechanic, wonderful man, strong as an ox, or so he thought. Raymond's wife had read somewhere that cranberry juice was good for urinary health, so Raymond had been drinking about 16 ounces of cranberry juice cocktail every day for nearly a decade. When Raymond came in for a routine physical, his triglycerides were through the roof, 280. His doctor had already put him on a statin, but his numbers were not budging. When I looked at his diet, the juice jumped out at me immediately. We eliminated the juice, replaced it with whole cranberries in his oatmeal and plenty of water, and within 4 months, his triglycerides dropped to 140, cut nearly in half, without changing his medication, without changing anything else in his diet, just the juice. Then there was Doris, 74, a lovely woman who had survived a mild heart attack 2 years before she came to see me. She was doing cardiac rehab, taking her medications, following what she believed was a heart-healthy diet, and every morning she had a tall glass of apple juice because, as she told me, apples are good for the heart. Right, doctor? When I explained the difference between eating a whole apple and drinking apple juice, she looked at me like I had told her the sky was green. She could not believe it. We swapped her juice for a whole apple and a glass of water. Over the next year, her follow-up imaging showed that her arterial plaque had stabilized. It was no longer progressing. Her cardiologist was thrilled and could not figure out what had changed. Doris knew. And then there was Martin, 62, who was pre-diabetic and drinking what he called a vitamin boost smoothie every morning from a popular juice chain. He thought he was being proactive about his health. But that smoothie contained the equivalent of nearly 10 teaspoons of sugar, mostly from fruit juice and fruit puree. When we broke down the numbers together, Martin actually got emotional. He said, "I have been spending $8 a day trying to be healthy, and it has been making me worse." We redesigned his breakfast completely. Within 6 months, his fasting glucose had returned to normal range, and his hemoglobin A1C dropped from 6.3 to 5.6. He reversed his prediabetes, and the single biggest change was eliminating the liquid sugar from his morning routine. These stories are not unusual. I see versions of them almost every week, and that is why I feel so strongly about getting this information to you. Now, before I go further, I want to hear from you. Think about your own morning routine. Think about what you drink with breakfast or throughout the day. Have you ever been told by a doctor or a family member that juice is healthy and you should drink more of it? If so, type "I was told juice was healthy" in the comments. I think we are going to see a lot of those, and it is going to show just how widespread this outdated advice really is. All right, so now the question you are probably asking is, Dr. Moore, what do I actually do with this information? And I would not leave you hanging. Let me walk you through exactly what I recommend to my own patients. First, and this is the most impactful change you can make, replace your morning juice with whole fruit and water. Instead of a glass of orange juice, eat an actual orange and drink a glass of water. You will get the same vitamins, the same antioxidants, but you will also get the fiber that slows down sugar absorption. Your liver will thank you. Your arteries will thank you, and honestly, you will probably feel more satisfied because the fiber helps with fullness. Second, if you absolutely love the taste of juice and you find it hard to give up, try diluting it significantly. Take 2 ounces of juice, just a splash, and fill the rest of your glass with sparkling water or plain water. You still get a hint of that flavor, but you reduce the fructose load by 75% or more. Over time, try to reduce even that small amount until you have transitioned fully to water or unsweetened herbal tea. Third, read labels carefully. This is crucial. Many products that are marketed as healthy or natural are essentially liquid sugar. Some brands of cranberry juice contain as much sugar per ounce as cola. Some smoothie products contain juice concentrates that are just another way of saying concentrated fructose. If a label says made with real fruit juice, that is not necessarily a good thing. Look at the sugar content per serving. If it is more than 8 grams per 8 ounces, think twice. Fourth, and this one is important, talk to your doctor at your next appointment. Bring this up. Tell them you have been drinking juice regularly and ask specifically about your triglyceride levels, your fasting glucose, and your uric acid. Many standard blood panels do not include uric acid, so you may need to request it. These 3 numbers together will give you a much clearer picture of whether juice has been affecting your metabolic health. Fifth, if you have been drinking juice for years and you are concerned about what may have already happened, ask your doctor about a carotid artery ultrasound. This is a simple, painless, non-invasive test that can show whether there is any plaque buildup in the arteries that supply blood to your brain. It is one of the most underutilized screening tools in medicine, and given what we now know about juice and arterial health, it is worth asking about, especially if you are over 60. Sixth, do not replace juice with diet drinks or artificially sweetened beverages. I know that might seem like a logical swap, but the research on artificial sweeteners and cardiovascular health is its own complicated story, and I will be covering that in a future video. For now, your best friends are water, herbal tea, and if you enjoy it, coffee in moderation. Seventh, remember that this is not about being perfect. If you have a small glass of juice at a family brunch or on a special occasion, that is not going to destroy your health. What matters is the daily habit. It is the repeated, consistent exposure to high levels of liquid fructose day after day, month after month, year after year that drives the arterial damage. Eliminating that daily habit is where the real benefit lies. Now, I want to bring this full circle. I want to go back to Gloria for a moment. After her mini stroke, Gloria made dramatic changes. She eliminated juice completely. She focused on whole fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, and plenty of water. She worked with a wonderful cardiac rehabilitation team, and over the next 2 years, her numbers improved significantly. Her triglycerides came down, her carotid plaque stabilized. She did not have another event. But I will never forget what she told me at one of her follow-up appointments. She said, "Dr. Moore, the thing that upsets me most is not that I got sick. It is that I thought I was doing the right thing. For 15 years, I thought I was protecting myself, and nobody told me otherwise." That is why I make these videos. Because Gloria's story is not unique. It is happening right now, in kitchens all over the world, to people who deserve better information. The science has evolved. What we knew 20 years ago about nutrition has been refined and, in many cases, completely overturned. But the advice that reaches most people has not kept up. There is a gap between what researchers know and what patients are told, and that gap is costing people their health. So here is what I want you to remember from today. Fruit is wonderful. Whole fruit is a fantastic part of a healthy diet. But fruit juice is not the same as fruit. Removing the fiber changes everything. It turns a healthy food into a metabolic challenge for your liver. And over time, that challenge translates into real, measurable damage to your arteries. You deserve to know this, and you deserve to make your own informed choices based on the best available evidence, not on advice that was outdated 10 years ago. If this information was helpful to you, I need your help getting it to the people who need it most. Please hit that like button because it tells the algorithm that this matters. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already, and most importantly, share this video with someone you love. Share it with your spouse, your sibling, your parent, your friend, anyone who pours themselves a glass of juice every morning thinking they are doing something healthy. You could genuinely help protect someone's heart today just by pressing that share button. In my next video, I am going to dive into another so-called healthy habit that is surprisingly common among seniors and that new research suggests may be doing more harm than good. Trust me, you are not going to want to miss it. Make sure notifications are turned on so you see it when it drops. And before I go, a quick but important note. Everything I have shared today is for educational and informational purposes. It is not a substitute for personalized medical advice from your own doctor who knows your specific health situation. Always consult your physician before making significant changes to your diet or health routine. Thank you for watching, thank you for trusting me with your time, and thank you for caring enough about your health to seek out information like this. That tells me something important about you. It tells me you are someone who takes their well-being seriously, and that more than any supplement or superfood is the most powerful health tool you have. Take care of yourself. I will see you in the next one.